By the end of this video, you will be able to pass some properties to the functional component we have already created, to the stateful component we have already created, and see the result in the UI. So whatever you pass in the functional component, whatever you pass in the stateful component, you will be able to traverse this in the UI. So stay tuned. Let's get started. So to pass the properties, let's say, so we have already created the functional component, we have already created the stateful component. So let's say if you want to pass some property like what's the component name, let's say this is a functional component, functional, and let's say if you want to pass some value like let's say 3, that's because this is our third video, but it's you can see there is a red bar kind of thing. That means this functional component does not support component name and value. And probably if I use number here, so I can show you how to use this. So if you go here, you can see the functional component actually requires the properties. So you can pass the props like props and whatever the value you want. So let's say if we want component name as a string, sorry, and the second value would be, sorry, this should not be here, and the second value would be a number. Okay, now if you go back to your app.tsx, it's not giving you any error. So how to use this component.name? So probably if I remove this, is it the functional? Yes. So you can remove this by using props dot component name, let's say session. So this is our third session, so probably I'll add props dot value. So if you go here, you can see I am a functional component and session 3. So whatever value you pass, so let's say if I pass session 1 to 3, so you will see that particular thing here. So you can pass properties in the component, in a functional component like this. Okay, and I'll show you how to pass. So let's say if I want to pass the same thing inside the stateful component, and this will be a stateful component. So if you go here, it still doesn't support the props. So I've mentioned that the very first thing you see here, a blank object, is the props. So what you need to do is you need to pass a props, and you have to create that interface of props. So if you create the interface of props, so what props value you need? Component name and the value. So probably I'll use this. Component name will be a string and the value will be a number. So probably I'll get rid of these states. We don't need this anymore. So we can pass blank here. We don't need the states. We don't need the lifecycle methods. Okay. And this is, so here what we'll do is we'll use props dot component name, and we don't have type anymore, so I'll remove this, and let's copy the same thing from here. So both the component will return somewhere around same thing, but it doesn't have the props. That's because it's a class-based component, so probably we have to use this dot props to see the value. So if you go here, you can see. So this is now the first one is saying I'm a functional component section 3, I'm a stateful component section 3. So this is how we can pass the properties to any component. So that we are passing stateful here. Let's say if I whatever value you want. So let's say in case if you want to pass an object, you can pass the entire object from the property itself. Make sure if you are passing something from the functional component, you have to add props, and whatever the property you are passing, whether it's a B, C, or any property you are passing. And in case of the stateful component, you have to create the props, and you have to use those props using this dot props, and you are done. So probably this is all about how to pass props into a stateful and the functional component. And probably in the next session, we'll see something about forms in React, how to create basic forms, and how to handle submit and all those things. Thank you guys.